our logic is, well, I can do more good from the palace. But the truth is, God may not have in mind for you to work from the palace. He may need you to take a step, go on a journey, and kind of put down some things that you've been holding on to.
Welcome to TBC 10 Minute Tuesday, a podcast of Thelma Baptist Church. I'm your host, BJ Parson, missions and student pastor here at Thelma Baptist Church. Our goal in this weekly podcast is to engage, inform, and inspire. And in the TMT Studio this morning with us is a guy who inspires us all. That is our senior pastor extraordinaire, Pastor Doug Chappelle.
Man, your intros get better and better all the time. I like that. Yeah.
I try to think, how can I tell truth while not creating false hype?
Yeah.
But that's not a false hype. You are a amazing senior pastor, somebody that we all respect and look to for, as I say many times in our staff meeting, the guy to inspire us, and you do an amazing job with that. Walk in the woods. I mean, I can give you at least a handful of catchphrases that are more than just catchphrases. They're things that stand out in our life.
Yeah.
And so you do an amazing job at that.
Well,
so,
thank you. I appreciate that.
And speaking of an amazing job, you started a new series. This Sunday really stood out, The Calling, right?
Yeah.
And you have my attention.
Yeah.
Series title, coming out of Exodus 3.
I know that's really meaningful for you particularly.
Many people don't know that I have ADD, which is not an attention disorder. It's an attention overload. I see everything, and everything gets my attention. Some people talk about squirrels. I think I do pretty good. I'm doing really well now. The squirrels get loose every once in a while, but my squirrels are bedazzled with LED lights, rolled in glue, dipped in glitter, and they're, they that's where we end up a lot of times. So everything gets my attention. But there's a lot of things around us that are fighting, a lot of individuals, a lot of groups who are fighting for our attention. And the sad part is we give it.
That's right. Yeah, whenever I started the series, Moses caught my attention because I've heard the story like everybody else has so many times. And everybody knows about the burning bush, the bush that's on fire, but it's not being consumed. And you think about it in the context of when it happened at that time, that it had to be a pretty spectacular sight for Moses. It definitely would have caught his attention.
Right.
But in our modern context, there are so many amazing things, impressive things that happen around us all the time. And it just made me think about how hard it would be to get our attention now. We have special effects everywhere. You go to movies, and the special effects are so amazing. You go to theme parks and see all the animatronics and holograms and different things. We see things constantly that are beyond impressive now.
Yeah.
And so, what would it take today in our context for God to get my attention or to get your attention for a calling in our lives? Number one, everybody has a calling in their lives. God doesn't just set anybody up for, well, here's your salvation, just kind of kick back and ride and enjoy. I think there's something that God's got unique for each of us. And when God does show up and reveal himself to us, I don't think that he's in any way he's stopped doing that. I think he does it still all the time. There are burning bush type things that happen around us, but we may very well not notice it. And of course, Sunday in my sermon talked about how we may be in the wrong place. Maybe we haven't moved in our lives yet to the place where God wants to meet with us and to share that with us. Moses had to move out of the palace in Egypt and back among the Hebrews and get a job with his father-in-law taking care of his sheep, and for God to have that big meeting with him up on the mountain. And sometimes, our logic is, well, I can do more good from the palace. But the truth is, God may not have in mind for you to work from the palace. He may need you to take a step, go on a journey and kind of put down some things that you've been holding on to get to the place where he can even get your attention for what's next.
The book that I was thinking of that we read, one of the stories in the book talked about everything around us that gets our attention, and it takes us to a place of not listening or not being able to hear a God who talks to us in a still small voice. And it kind of challenged you to take things out of your life that may be covering up the voice of God.
Yeah.
And one of the things, Scott Dawson, Evangelistic Association, one of the groups that we work with often, one thing that Scott said was he doesn't believe that God stopped calling us.
Mm-hmm.
We stopped answering the call.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I like that.
And so that's been one of the big things through the STS Institute, trying to give a biblical but practical education or instruction to individuals who feel that calling, because a lot of times we feel like it's too much, it's too big, and I'm not equipped, I'm not smart enough,
right.
I'm not good enough, I don't know enough to answer that call. So undoubtedly, God's not calling me.
No, I think you're entirely right what you're saying, and I think that one of our problems, I guess, is that we tend to want a lot more information up front than God often shows us. You know, when Moses saw that burning bush, the Bible says he was amazed by seeing it, and that he was compelled to take a few steps closer to it. And that's really all he got to see, though. He had no idea at that moment what was about to happen. Didn't know that God was going to, send him to confront Pharaoh. Didn't know anything about the whole walking across the Red Sea or any number of things that were about to happen. All he got was the bush. And so a lot of times we're so caught up in managing outcomes in our lives. So we will know how things are going to go. We will know how long it's going to take and how things are going to turn out. And so I think just seeing the burning bush and stepping closer is a big step for us. But to step closer to what God shows us, we've got to step away from something else. And that's a pretty hard ask sometimes for us, because we like to know what's going to happen.
Truth.
And that's what excites me, I guess, about Moses and his story is, he was reluctant. People give him a hard time because he kind of wanted to blow off God's calling in his life and hand it to Aaron. But at the same time, he took that step.
Right.
And I think that's a big step for all of us.
We've been talking with the students about faith and defining what it is to have faith and to walk by faith. But I believe there's times in our lives when we confuse faith for obedience.
Yeah.
When God is calling you, it's not a matter of finding every little detail before taking a step.
Yeah.
And as parents, when we tell our child to do something, our desire is for them to do that. You don't want them to come to you and tell you how much they love you and how much they trust you and how much they believe that you're doing everything for their good, and to thank them, to thank you for everything that you're doing. You want them to accomplish the task that was given, or at least to try.
That's right.
And your desire is for them to obey, and at the very least, put an effort into accomplishing that task that was given, and that's what God desires from us. When he calls us, he doesn't want us to tell him how much we love him or discuss the ins and outs of the particular area where he's calling us. He wants obedience. When God says go, he wants us to go.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's kind of as reminiscent of what Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, where he said, hey, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all the other things will be added to our lives. If we could just for a moment stop worrying about all the other things and just start with that seeking first step, I think things will be a lot different for us.
And that's easy to say, but difficult to do, and especially in a moment. And it's not just a moment, but a series of moments of heading in that direction. And I think that's where faith comes in. And, I'm going to do it. I know you're calling me in a general direction. God, I'm going to follow your calling. And that's obedience.
Yeah, exactly. Vic and I are having a conversation Well, just this week about the calling, it was kind of spurred on by this sermon series. And we're talking about people answering the call into ministry, into vocational ministry. And the question was God still calling? Why aren't the people answering the call anymore? Why aren't people coming forward saying they feel God's call into missions or full-time ministry? And I guess my answer to that, is I feel like God's still calling. Mm-hmm. I just feel like people aren't answering.
That's right.
They're tending the flock like Moses was, but they aren't seeing the bush, or they're seeing the bush, but they aren't amazed by it and they aren't compelled to go see it. And so,
or that bush is going to cost them something.
That's right. Yeah, I don't want to go over there. I don't want to get involved.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
And so I believe firmly God's still calling people to greater things. But I think so many times we're not noticing, we're not drawn to what God's doing, or we're just afraid of what it might cost us.
Now, you gave us a challenge in the staff meeting to keep seeking.
Yeah.
And keep asking, continue to keep searching. And so I would say if we were going to kind of boil it down, what's the message behind this, and do it in a simple and memorable way, it would be, if you're sitting in the pew, God's got more for you to do.
Well, that's good and quite poetic. Yeah.
I think that's it. If you're just sitting in the pew, God's got something more for you to do. And you've said it before, there's no place for spectators in the kingdom.
That is true.
We all have a purpose.
We do.
And God's got more for each of us. And so I'm excited about this series, and I'm excited to see what God's going to do through it, not just in our lives, but in the life of our church. And so thank you for joining me today. Thank you always for your leadership, your inspirational thoughts, and just the things that you do to lead us as a church. And for everybody else, I do want to encourage you and invite you back to join us on Wednesday. Did you know that Pastor Doug has a Bible study on Wednesday?
Every Wednesday.
That's right. 6:30, children and student activities, adult activities here at TBC. Also, 8:30 and 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, groups, worship. We'd love to see you here. So from us to you, have a great rest of your week. Hope to see you back next time for TBC 10 Minute Tuesday.